Remember when we visited the Horizons exhibition at the National Museum of Australia? And we looked at some of the relics from our convict past. And we asked the question, what's not here? How much can I really find out about the lives of female convicts? Now, I know that there were approximately 25,000 female convicts sent by Britain to Australia, but what else was I able to learn from that exhibition? The answer is not much. So to solve this mystery, we had to go elsewhere to find the clues. Well, here we are, a very quiet village called Ross in the Central Highlands of Tasmania. This is a tourist destination. It's a fantastic place because it's steeped in history. Old churches, graveyards, and this old bridge built by convict labour. In 1836, when Governor Arthur opened this bridge, he was so impressed with the intricate design that he rewarded the convict surveyor and the convict architect with their freedom. But that's a story about convict men. What about the women who came to Ross? What did they do and where did they live? Now, the convict women who came to Ross actually stayed here in this very prison, and the prison was called a female factory. What prison, I can hear you asking? The prison is buried. It's buried in this paddock, and we're going to try and find some of the clues to see what it can tell us about their lifestyle. Areas that can help solve mysteries sometimes disappear or are hidden underground. When that happens, we try to find information by digging up or excavating the area. This is called archaeology, which involves collecting, measuring and recording details of the artefacts that are discovered. It has to be done very carefully, and sometimes after the discoveries are made, the area is covered up again to preserve it for the future. And that's what's happened here. But we can still examine many of the things that were dug up. And when we look at them carefully and ask questions, we can start finding out about how the convict women lived. So what we want you to do is to join the archaeological team that explored Ross to try and find out as much as you can about the lives of the female convicts that lived there. Now, to help you, we've brought you here to the female factory at Hobart, in the capital city of Tasmania, and history is all around us. You can still walk on the very ground that the female convicts walked on in 1828. We also know that 12,500 women passed through these walls. We know that 1,200 babies were born, and sadly, 900 died. But most importantly, here at this site, we have an archaeologist who is still working to try and solve the same sort of problem that you're trying to solve. Let's meet him.
One of the best places to look if I want to find out about how people lived here, I would want to look in these drains because although they still work, they've got enough soil in them to stop artefacts inside from getting washed away. And I might expect to find clay pipes, bottles and buttons and things like that that might have been used as currency in a place where there is no currency. And if I was a convict and I didn't want people to find them, that's the sort of place where I would hide them.
But we want you to solve the mystery of what life was like for female convicts here in Ross, using the archaeological evidence as well as stories and other information that exist. What did the women do? How did they survive? Let's get our hands dirty by digging up the past, and then we can come back later on and go through what we've been able to discover. So how did you get on? What did you find out by sifting through the evidence? Well, I've found out quite a lot, and the map I found out was very, very useful to me. And this place really has some significance for me now. So the crime area would have been here, and the hiring area over here. And I also found out where the chapel was. The chapel was back here, and beside it were the solitary cells. Remember, they're the ones that were called the dark cells, because time spent in these cells was pretty horrific. And as I look around here, I can virtually visualise the buildings and I can get some sense of the life of what it must have been like for these convict women. So imagine you're one of the female convicts coming in for the first time to the crime class area. You're scared, lonely, worried. You're trying hard to fit in. And then you go over to the work area. And if you get a chance, you look through the bars to the world beyond and you're wondering about your family and whether in fact you'd ever see them again. And each day you go to the chapel for prayers. And perhaps for you, the chapel is a symbol of hope and salvation. And knowing all the time that you had to stay out of trouble. Because if you did get into trouble, it meant solitary confinement in a dark, damp cell approximately this size, a mere 2 metres by 1.3 metres. Imagine what that would have been like. How could you possibly bear that existence? Well, for the convict women, it was only just bearable if they could smuggle in some extra food, tobacco, and the occasional tot of rum. You know, for a long time, Australians were ashamed of their convict past. The convict stain, we call it. But it's pretty trendy to find a convict skeleton in your cupboard today. Perhaps you've got one. You know, the site of the female factory and the town of Ross itself, well, I reckon they're a very important part of my heritage. And I think I appreciate that more now that I've actually come here and walked on the same ground as my convict ancestors. Do you think it's an important part of your heritage? I hope so.